Welcome to the Legal CFO.
Welcome to the show where clarity meets profitability. This is the Legal CFO with Ryan Kimler, the founder of Netprofit CFO. If you're a law firm owner looking to get a handle on your finances, grow your bottom line, and finally take control of your numbers, you're in the right place. Each episode, Ryan breaks down the business side of law with straightforward strategies to help your firm run smarter, earn more, and scale with confidence. I'm Chelsey, and today we're talking about how the financial systems a law firm needs change as it grows from early success into a more complex operation. Welcome back, Ryan.
Yes, thank you for having me. Excited to be here and excited to dive into the topic today.
I was gonna say, let's dive right in. Why do financial systems that work well for smaller law firms often start to break down as revenue grows?
Yep, scale, right?
Mhm.
More volume, right? Always can break things. A lot of times I like to look at things through the lens of, I always ask two questions. Is it profitable? Number one. And number two, is it scalable? Because I think when you're smaller and starting out, there's a lot of instances where maybe things aren't fully efficient and you're okay with it because you can manage the volume. And then when you continue to grow your firm and continue to grow volume, then it's like, oh my gosh, I can't keep up with this task anymore because it's so manual and so inefficient, right? And then systems start to break. So that's what happens over time, especially if you're going to scale and grow, which I think a lot of law firm owners and a lot of listeners want to do. We've got to have systems that build into the future.
Let's start around the 1 million mark. What financial systems or habits tend to matter most for keeping this firm stable?
Yes. You've got to have a couple great systems in place. Number one, I would say a great accounting system. That could be a QuickBooks Online. It could be like a Xero. It could be a Sage. There's a lot of different products out there. But one that's efficient, right? Where your bank activity is coming in, you're accounting for the transactions of your business. That can include billing as well. Billing your clients out and collecting payments from your clients. Having those foundational systems in place before we add on client volume and before we add a bunch more of attorneys, really, really important to have that core system in place. On the financial side, second thing is a great practice management software. Not being, I'm going to call it old school of paper files. Really get digitized, right? Get to a software where your entire team can access a case file by logging in online. There's a lot of great practice management softwares out there that I've worked with that can really serve that purpose. I don't really need to throw any out here. There's a lot of them that'll work. I think the most important thing is it's a system that you're comfortable with, can get around in, and will actually use. Because if we're not actually utilizing it and we're not actually relying on it, it's not doing its job. And so having that system in place and using it for as many main functions as you can, super, super important. If you can get to a place where the entire case life cycle is there, meaning from like first contact before you intake a new client all the way to we close the case, that is ideal. But having a system that, again, you're keeping all of your cases organized in, super, super important to have those two systems.
And now let's say you're growing. Your firm, which is great. But how does a firm's financial needs change as they move closer to, say, 3 million in revenue?
Yep. I think the biggest thing is how you handle your data. And this is going to be true for 3 million and 5 million. It's how you handle your data and the other tools that we can get that plug into your main core systems, right? So I'll call an accounting software and a case management software. That's kind of your foundation, right? And then as we build on to 3 and 5 million, you're kind of continuing to build the house, if you will, right? And sometimes for data management, like having a lead software that plugs into a case management software, right? To capture and track all of the leads and where the prospects that you have of your law firm are in the intake process. Super, super important to install. They're kind of like sub pieces or subsets, right? Or add-ons, if you want to look at it that way, right? Getting to a place where we can automate as much as possible, and not have to be reliant on data entry, because as you scale, you're really going to fall behind the hours on that. Same with processing payments automatically, right? That's kind of an add-on as well. But just continuing to bolt on those add-ons as you have a need to your foundation, I think is really important as you scale to 3 and 5 million.
This is an off topic, but you've mentioned a few pieces of software here, and I can just imagine an attorney saying, "I'm an attorney. I'm not here to be a tech person." Do a lot of these systems offer help getting them set up or putting all these pieces together?
Yeah, some do, and some provide like some great demos and kind of how things work. And then a lot of times, especially with practice management softwares, they'll have partners that you can actually hire that will work with you to implement the systems that you want to implement. And Chelsey, I'm glad that you brought that up. I mean, that is something that I think a lot of law firms underutilize. But in the long run, as an investment in your firm, can really pay dividends to have the right systems, right? Like a great example is like Clio case management software. It's probably one that a lot of my listeners are familiar with. It's very popular. There's a great company that I know of that will build out all of the steps in your case. So when you hand it over to another attorney, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, here are the steps and tasks that we're going to use in the system to really manage this case and the things that need to be done dependent on the type of case that it is. And from an owner, from a management standpoint, when you have tasks that have due dates that are triggered based on when you open the case, it's really easy then to log in and see like, well, this task is overdue from XYZ attorney on this case file, right? And from a management standpoint, again, like imagine going from $1 million in revenue to $5 million in revenue, $1 million in revenue. You can probably keep your finger on the pulse and kind of know those things, right? Have weekly meetings, have status updates. As you go to 5 million and you change really the volume that's at your firm, it's harder to do that, right? Because more clients, more cases, more attorneys, right? So being able to have a dashboard with tasks that are overdue that you can go and follow up on is a great management tool to have to build into your firm as you grow.
Perfect segue into the 5 million mark. What additional structure becomes important as you're going from 3 to 5 million?
Yes, dashboards, I would say, and really summary data, right? I think when you're smaller, that $1 to $3 million mark, again, you can really have your finger on the pulse of things, and you can really see the stages of where everything is and what's going on. As you trend towards 5 million, being able to be informed, right, and have that summary dashboard or those summary pieces and follow-up items, just in a short list is a great thing to have, to enable you to manage your firm as it gets more volume, right? So imagine, again, being able to log into your practice management software maybe at the beginning of the week and getting a list of here are the tasks and people that I need to follow up with to make sure that we're okay, right? Everything else is, not popping up as like a red flag, right? So it's probably on track and we're doing okay. And I can have status meetings and check in on maybe more difficult cases that I'm concerned about. But to have a checklist, a red flag list of here are the things that I know I need to go check in on, just a great management tool to have when you're at that $5 million mark.
Or how about, I want to take a vacation and I
Yeah,
can
that
trust that
too.
my team knows exactly what needs to happen.
For sure, that too. Yeah, I mean, if you've got that summary and like, okay, let's cover are, let's say I'm going to go on vacation for 2 weeks and really be unplugged on vacation, not I just moved my office scenery to the beach,
Yep.
right? Uh, yeah, absolutely. Looking at that list of, okay, well, what due dates do we have coming up in the next 2 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And before I leave, I can, prep with my team and cover those things. And is there anything that they're concerned about, or is there anything that they might need my help on before I leave, right? Great point.
We're all bombarded with tech these days. How
Yeah.
can firm owners know whether they're missing a system entirely versus not just using the right one consistently?
Yeah, the right one consistently. I think it's different for every firm, right? And it really comes down to, are you utilizing it? Do you like it? And there might not be an exact, like, perfect scenario, software for you, right? Um, but I think if there's a consistent challenge or problem that you have in your firm, it's, one of your solutions is probably, what softwares and things do we have the option to add in to solve that problem, right? When it comes to, like, case management and finances, like, that's probably one of the things that you should consider and look at to make sure that you're not missing a piece. But it can be hard to get and finally land on, like, this is what I'm sticking with, this is what I'm comfortable with, this is what I'm using, and rather our firm does $1 million this year or $10 million, this is what we're using, right? Um, and I think sometimes evaluating, just how workflows happen. Can this workflow really work for me out to $10 million, right? Or 20, or however far you want to go. Those are some good questions to ask as well and really evaluate. And if you're not sure, kind of like you brought up before, I would contact someone at the software company, right? And have that conversation with them and say, hey, this is how I've been using this. Seems kind of inefficient. Do you have a better way to do it? And would this support me out to, if I 10x'd my volume, right? And see what their answers are to that conversation. Kind of evaluate it from there. Is it going to be a fit or is it not?
What problems tend to show up when they're trying to scale without upgrading their financial systems along the way?
Yes. Things fall through the cracks all the time. Either missed deadlines, missed due dates, and or especially like on the finances around billing, right? Just missed processes, lack of consistency on when we send bills out, how that process happens, when we collect payments, how we record them, right? I think the biggest thing is just missed items, things fall through the cracks, lack of consistency. And then also, I would say, lastly, a lack of insights of just knowing where things are, knowing what the status of things are, knowing from a financial standpoint what your numbers are. Like, another great kind of check, just real quick, like a key KPI that I like to look at is, how many cases are each one of our attorneys currently responsible for right now that's open, right? Like, if you can't get down to that number, how do you know if your staff's busy? How do you know who to hand the next case to, right? So those kind of metrics, those kind of things are good indicators that we're missing something, right? I don't have insights there. You should have data and insights and things that you can go and take action on to improve. And if you don't, then I would say you're missing some data pieces.
Can you walk us through an example of a firm that maybe they struggled to grow because the systems hadn't kept pace? And then what changed once they did get the right systems in place?
So one of the firms I'm working with right now, they actually had an accounting software in place, was actually using Clio, just not to its full extent, and really tracking, again, like, the owner couldn't get down to how many cases does each attorney have right now. So that's one of the first things we got down to. But also, they're a firm that does a lot of estate plans, a lot of flat rate work. and just not having their people track hours and where their time was going, just even for a little while, right? To really assess, is our pricing correct? And so that was a part of the system that they weren't even using. And then there was no accountability with their staff, right? So they had hey, you should be working files like this many hours a week. I'll just say it's like 20 hours a week, right? That's not the exact number, but just for round numbers, 20 hours a week. But they had no idea who was doing that and who wasn't, right? And who was, really holding to that standard and who wasn't. They had a gut feeling based on how many case files each attorney was cranking out and completing, but not real concrete numbers. And so getting the systems in place and getting the attorneys trained on easiest way to track time, consistency in tracking time, how to run reports for themselves so they know, like, am I on pace or am I not? And that really turned that firm around on productivity. I'm a firm believer in what you track and measure gets better, right? You're focused on it. And so their productivity and their output really improved, and it was really, really quick. We, started time tracking, and like 2 months later, really had a good handle on who was doing their hours, who wasn't, who needed to improve, right? And productivity really increased at the firm in a really short time period. We're talking like 60 days.
How does having stronger financial systems change the way that owners would make decisions day to day?
Yeah, it's really just having your hands on the data and having access to it, right? Things become much clearer when we have clear insights into data and we know what's going on. If we know, what's holding the firm back, or maybe a weak spot in the firm, we can dive into that number and really attack it to make change to it. And so having financial insights for looking forward into the future is, in my opinion, second to none. Just, again, more clarity, more, easy to see, like, is this the right decision? Is it not? Is it going to work financially? We can forecast forward, based on what the firm's been doing and see, are we still going to be profitable if we make this decision, right? You can really model out the different scenarios and see what does the future look like if we make this choice, right? And that, for an owner, I think helps set aside the emotions of what the gut feeling might be and really get down to, like, is this the right choice or not?
For a firm that's growing quickly, how should owners prioritize which financial systems to build first instead of trying to do everything at once?
Yes. To me, I think, cash is king, right? You've got to have cash to run your law firm. So I would say start in the places that directly impact cash coming into your firm. So that means your billing. That means your invoicing, right? That means how you collect payments, right? If I was starting from scratch and just had nothing, and let's just say we were a firm that was already doing $3 million or $5 million, it would be starting inside of the billing system and inside of how we collect payments. Because if we don't have cash coming in the door, we're not going to be in business very long. So I would, again, and if you've got that completed, okay, great. You can move on to the next thing on, again, how cash comes in the door and how cash flows out. So the next thing might be, the way you pay your bills. But I would work on, those things first, because that's going to have the biggest impact.
Lots of great nuggets in today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for listening to The Legal CFO with Ryan Kimler. If you're ready to get financial clarity for your law firm, visit netprofitcfo.com to learn more about working with Ryan and his team. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, share it with another law firm owner, and leave a review, because the more you know, the more you grow. Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.